Good evening and welcome. It's Friday night, it's 8 o'clock, and that means it's time for Buster's Virtual Jazz Club. That's right, folks. We're live on YouTube, going out to all around the world, to infinity and beyond. We hope you've had a great week. How you all doing? Do say hello in the chat box so I know you're out there. Hi, hello, John. John's there, and David. Lovely to see you, David. Good to know there's some people out there. Well, we hope you've had a great week, as I said, and I'd just like to say a big special thank you to all my subscribers, my supporters, whether on Patreon or those of you that just make a one-off donation on our PayPal. It really means a lot, and it goes a very long way, especially at the moment with the lockdown, COVID, tears, and all that sort of nonsense. This is really helping to keep us going. So also do check out the website and also the Facebook page. We've got a Facebook page and we've got some posts in there, and you can always leave some comments on our Facebook page. Hi Peter's in the house, and Lance and Laurie, lovely to see you guys. Welcome. Good evening. So my guest this evening, Ashaz has just joined us as well. Lovely to see you, Ashaz. My guest this evening began his career while studying at Trinity College of Music, and since then he has worked regularly on the British, European and international jazz scene. He's recorded many critically acclaimed albums under his own name, as well as working alongside some of the biggest names in jazz, including John Sermon's Brass Project, which he recorded a CD for on the ECM record label, touring Europe and playing at many of the major jazz festivals with the Carla Bley Big Band, and again recording 2 albums for ECM with that group. Other performers that he's regularly worked with and recorded with include Andy Shepherd, Tony Coe, Victor Mendoza, Mal Waldron, Graham Collier, Mike Garrick, Don Weller, John Warren, Colin Towns, Robin Jones, Jeff Hooper, Alan Barnes and Lee Gibson. He's also a composer and has had a number of commissions ranging from small groups to big bands. His piece Concerto for Congas was commissioned for George Haslam's Meltdown Festival, featuring Robin Jones as the soloist, and was released in 2001 for the Slam label. He has also composed a number of pieces for Robin Jones's King Salsa, which can be heard on 2 of their CDs, Chango and Ashe. In 2002, he was invited to perform at the Havana Jazz Festival as a guest artist with Chucho Valdez and a Cuban big band featuring many of the greatest Cuban jazz musicians. The program included him directing his Concerto for Congas. He's a professor of jazz trumpet at Trinity College of Music in London and visiting jazz trumpet specialist at the Royal Northern College of Music and the Welsh College of Music and Drama. He runs an annual contemporary big band jazz weekend, teaches on many summer schools, and has conducted numerous trumpet masterclasses throughout the UK and in Spain, Finland, Latvia, South Africa and Cuba. And I'm pleased to say he's here with us now, live on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the very wonderful Steve Waterman. Hello mate, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Great, very good. Thanks for coming on the show and giving up your evening. It's really kind of you to join us, and I'm looking forward to playing your tunes and having a chat about your music, and it's great that you can be here. How's everything going? What have you been up to in this very weird year we've had?
Yes, it's very strange, isn't it? It seems to be keeping fairly busy with doing lots of online teaching, a few recordings online for people as well. So
right,
yeah, I'm still writing and composing and things like that. So yeah, keeping myself quite busy.
I know you're not
practicing as well.
Practicing, yes, exactly. Well, we've got no excuse anymore, have we?
I'm trying to keep my lip in.
Well, there's a curse of the trumpet. Yes, indeed. Yeah, it's a beast, isn't it? To do. And yeah, I mean, you've done so much, Steve. It's really great. I thought it'd be great to feature you because we did one already with the band, didn't we? Head South. One of my early shows when we were on Zoom. And I just thought it'd be great to get you back and talk about all the different things that you do as well, because it really is quite amazing. You've been such a prolific such a prolific output that you've had, and as both as a writer and a player. So I thought we'd sort of share a bit more of the other projects as well. Have you been? Did you have something? Did you have something that was called off this year that you had going on? Was there something coming up that, or was it a recording that you managed to put together? I can't remember. You were telling me about something.
Oh yeah, there was. I was doing a recording with Ben Crossland.
That's right.
He's written some new music to celebrate his 70th, which is coming up next year, and that was due to be done in March.
Right, that was it.
So that obviously had to get postponed, but we managed to find a window in September where everyone was free. So we spent 3 days recording that. So
great. And was that remote, or you managed to sort of just socially distance a studio kind of situation?
Yeah, we managed to do it in a studio, but socially distanced. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was great to be out and playing with people again.
Oh, I know. It's a funny world, isn't it? And it's like, when we do so many things that you take for granted. And one of the things that's come up a lot with talking to people is just the travelling around, isn't it? And playing. I mean, I know you do a lot of guest spots at various jazz clubs up and down the country, which is a feature of this British jazz scene that we have. So, and we're all kind of missing everyone, aren't we? The people that we see.
Oh, absolutely, yes, yeah.
And so I thought we'd start with we've got a video of a live gig, and this is from one of these typical kind of events. Well, maybe this one's not quite so typical. You could tell us a bit about, but typically what you'd do is you'd be booked as a guest artist, and you travel up to somewhere, and they'd have a local rhythm section or a local band that you'd be playing with, and that's quite an interesting sort of scenario, isn't it? As a soloist. Playing with musicians that you may not have even met before. How do you find that as a performer and as a player?
Oh, well, it's great fun. I mean, I really enjoy it, and the standard of the musicians you get to play with is fantastic. So
yeah.
It's always really good to do, and really good to meet other people and play with different people. Yeah, and I really enjoy doing that. I'm really missing it.
Yeah. Exactly, yeah. I think people don't quite realise sometimes, like you may literally have just met them that night, and there's not even time to have much of a rehearsal, is there? Sometimes we just play a few heads or not even, So you really are relying on those musicians to be of a standard enough to just literally turn up and play on the night, and it takes quite some doing, doesn't it?
It does, but as I said, the standard is great, so it's never ever a problem at all. It's always really great to be playing with everyone.
So this gig we've got is from a gig you did in Manchester. This is a live recording, and it's with it's the Mike Hall Quartet, and this is a video we've got. And do you remember when this was? A couple of years ago, I think. Yeah,
it was about 2 years ago. It was in 2018. Yes, up in Manchester, and it was at the there's a guy, Malcolm Fraser, in Manchester, who's a really big jazz fan, and I met him a couple of times when he came to gigs that I was playing on, and he puts on concerts in his house, and he has an invited audience, and it works great. It's really fantastic. And I go to Germany quite a lot, and that tends to be something that happens quite a lot, that they put on house concerts.
Yeah,
and they're really popular, and it's really great fun.
Lovely. So do you have to do the washing up afterwards as well? Is that part?
Luckily, we didn't know.
No. Well, look, let's watch this. This features Mike Hall on the tenor sax, Richard Weatherall on piano, our old friend Ed Harrison on the bass, who I haven't seen for a long time. He moved up to Manchester, and we played together in he was the first bass player, wasn't he, for Head South?
Yeah,
for the band.
Head South, yes, yeah.
And he played with Joe's quintet as well. I think he's on Joe's first album, actually. And this is Johnny Hunter on the drums as well. And this is a Jerry Bergonzi tune called On the Brink. And is this something you brought along, or that you had to just kind of play on the night? Was it something that Mike brought in, or was there much...
Yeah, it was something that Mike brought in. I mean, I've played it a couple of times with him before, and it's a contrafact. So it's a tune that is written over the chord progression of another tune. and the tune, the chord sequence for the tune it was written on is Confirmation, Charlie Parker's Confirmation.
Oh, right.
So this is a tune that Jay Bergonzi wrote over the chord sequence to Confirmation.
Wonderful. Right, well, let's watch a little bit of this then. This is on the Brink.
1, 2, 3.
Yes, that was my guest, Steve Waterman, on the trumpet, guesting with the Mike Hall Quartet in Manchester. And apparently it's exactly 2 years ago, almost. One of our listeners was there, John Quinn, and just say hello to a few more who've checked in on the chat box. Hi to Linda and Mary and Steve, just opening a rather fine Sancerre and a box of Ritz crackers. So we'll all be around to yours afterwards, Steve. Wendy and Robin and Pete's in the house. Nice to see you, Pete. So yes, mate, it sounded fantastic. Once you said a confirmation, I could hear it in
Yes, yeah.
yeah, very nice. Yeah, good, great tune. So I thought we could talk. Perhaps we could. You mind sharing a little bit about how you got started and perhaps some of your early influences and with what sort of training you had and whether there was a particular moment when you really was there a kind of catalyst at which point you thought, oh, this is it for me with reference to playing jazz particularly, or what was it, sort of just a gradual evolution? How did you get going on the trumpet?
Well, my parents were always playing music. My dad really liked big bands. I mean, his favourite was Glenn Miller, but I got brought up listening to Benny Goodman and Tommy Dorsey. So that was sort of my musical background. At the age of 8, I came home with a violin for some reason. I think at school you only had a choice of playing the violin or the recorder, and I desperately wanted to play music. And I ended up going for the violin, which I played. I mean, I carried on playing until I was about 15 or 16. But it was really the trumpet that I wanted to play. But at the time, there was no trumpet teacher at the school.
So what was it about the trumpet? Did you see a trumpet somewhere, or you heard it, or you saw someone playing it, or you just thought, oh, that sounds...
just hearing it from my dad's record collection.
I see.
Trumpet players I really loved were Harry James, Buddy Berrigan, Ziggy Alman, and I think
golden era with the big bands.
Those really stuck out, and that's what I wanted to be doing. So I really fell in love with the sound of the trumpet from those recordings. And when I got to the age of 10, we found out that there was going to be a trumpet teacher going to come into the school, and I was pleading with my parents to get me a trumpet, and my pet guinea pig died, and I was so upset.
Oh.
They went out and bought me a trumpet to cheer me up.
Oh, well, there we go.
So it's all down to my pet guinea pig, Oink.
Oh, yeah, Oink. Was that was
yeah.
Oh, fantastic. I thought you was going to say it was called Louis or something. Yeah.
So some parents bought me a trumpet and a tuner day book 1. And I pretty much spent the summer holiday sort of fiddling around with the trumpet. My dad, my granddad used to play the trumpet, so my dad sort of knew how to make an embouchure, so he taught me how to sort of make an embouchure and play it. So, and I could read music from doing the violin, so I started going through the tuner day, and then when I started having went back to school, I started having trumpet lessons regularly then, much to the dismay of my violin teacher. Right. She always said, "Why do you want to play the trumpet when you can play a proper instrument?" so I kept the violin going and the trumpet, but actually it was the trumpet that I was sort of really wanted to do. But when I was looking through Tuner Day Book 1, I couldn't find any of the tunes that I wanted to play. Right. So I used to just put my dad's records on and just play along to the recordings and sort of pick things up that way, which without realizing it was probably one of the best things I could be doing. So sort of putting the records on, playing along with Harry James and all these solos. And
you don't realise it's hard, do you, when you're doing that as well? So you just do it before no one's told you how hard it is. So
So I carried on doing that. Then I used to play in the Livington town band, which a while ago I found that Dave Horler and John Horler both were in the same band about 10 years previous to when I was in it. Both of them were brought up in the Livington on the south coast.
Is that where you're from, Livington?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and there was a fantastic cornet player, Eddie Blundell, who was just amazing. I'd never heard anyone play the cornet like him. He just had an amazing range and sound and dexterity. So I started going for lessons with Eddie Blundell, who taught me a huge amount. And actually, I still find myself when I'm teaching, sort of passing on some of the information that I got from Eddie when he was teaching me. But he also liked sort of dance bands, so we'd sort of go through. He had lots of dance band music, so we'd go through the music. But so I had to get a train into Bournemouth every Saturday to go and have a lesson with him. And while I was sort of wandering around, I used to walk into the local music shop and just have a look and see what music they had, see if I can find any Harry James trumpet solos written down. But I found a book of Dizzy Gillespie trumpet solos,
Right.
and I had a look through it, and I couldn't believe that anyone could play what was written on.
Right. Yeah.
And I bought the book, and I thought I really have to listen to it because I have no idea what it was.
Right.
So I think in our local record shop there's about 3 jazz records, but there was one of Dizzy Gillespie, and it was a compilation with Charlie Parker and Miles Davis
Right.
as well. And once I heard that, I was really hooked.
Amazing. Yeah.
And from then on, I was just sort of searching out different trumpet players, and I think the way I was finding out about jazz was almost in chronological order.
Just by chance.
Just by chance, yeah.
Brilliant.
So I found out Dizzy, Miles, then Clifford Brown, Fats Navarro, Freddie Hubbard, Lee
Perfect.
Morgan. So I sort of went through all of those.
Yeah. Amazing.
And then I got to music college. I went to Trinity College of Music. So I started there in 1980.
Was that when it was in the city?
Yeah, just around the back of Selfridges, Mandeville Place.
Of course.
And that was to do a classical course. They had no jazz courses at music colleges at that time, so I had to get in as a classical player. But I found out there was actually a really great sort of degree of doing jazz there. Bobby Lamb used to come in and take the big band. So we had 2-3 hour big band rehearsals with Bobby. And again, I learned a huge amount from him. Also at the college doing saxophone. I think Trinity was the only college at the time to offer first study saxophone. So there was a lot of saxophone players there. Martin Speake was there. Mark Lockhart was there. Simon Purcell had just been at Trinity, but he used to come back and do a sort of jazz club. Right. And that's when I sort of really started to learn about the theory. And
amazing.
So Simon was hugely helpful in developing that with all of us, really. Mark.
He's a very generous man, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. True teacher. Yeah. And so presumably you were playing in the symphony orchestra as well and doing all that sort of stuff as well at the same time, right?
Yeah, we're doing symphony orchestra, brass groups.
Yeah.
So I mean,
so great training like that. Just that the breadth of that training is going to be really, really good for you, isn't it, in the long run?
Oh, absolutely. And I had an absolutely fantastic time. And just sort of playing all the time, all sorts of different music. Putting on little jazz gigs in the local pubs up the Marylebone High Street. So
wonderful.
Yeah, that was a great time.
Thanks for sharing that. It's really interesting. And I thought what we'd do now, we're going to play one of your more kind of bebop-y kind of records. So you've produced a lot of records of your own in various combos, and a lot of great musicians on a lot of these albums as well. And you also have done a few sort of like features of other musicians as well, haven't you? But this one is the one I'm looking at is Night Lights. So the album with Alan Barnes.
Yeah, so this was an album putting the music of Joey Mulligan and Chick Corea together.
Chick Corea?
Yeah. So this was an idea of David Hayes, who's a record producer, and he liked picking two composers who were sort of quite different in styles, and sort of putting the music together. So there's a band that's playing music of Joey Mulligan and another band that's playing the music of
there's two completely different bands on the same album doing different music, totally different music.
Yeah, I mean there's a few crossovers, but yeah, he just likes the idea of different soundscapes, really. So a more sort of fusiony Chick Corea type music, and then a more straight ahead Joey Mulligan.
I guess it's like a night at Ronnie Scott's where you get those sort of two great bands back to back, quite different in styles as well. In the old days, when you get like a few weeks at a time, wouldn't you? You could see two quite contrasting styles on the same night. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so the Jerry Mulligan, a lot of that was based around the quintet with Alan Barnes. It was Gareth Williams on piano, Alec Dankworth on bass, and Clark Tracy
yeah.
on drums.
Wonderful rhythm section, great.
Fantastic, yeah. I was really lucky to be playing with these people. And then put a 10-piece band together with the same rhythm section, with the addition of there's Dave O'Higgins, Ben Castle, Mark Nightingale, Jim Rattigan on French horn, Martin Shaw on trumpet as well. So with a 10-piece band, I did some arrangements of Jerry Mulligan tunes, but also some of the Chick Corea tunes as well.
And was that a kind of Birth of the Call kind of feel to that, or was that just more just like straight ahead swinging stuff again?
Yeah, I mean the Jerry Mulligan stuff was sort of quite straight ahead swinging stuff, but with the Chick Corea, I did an arrangement of La Fiesta. For that, so sort of Spanish tinged.
I'll have to listen out for that.
So there's quite a lot of variety within all the different styles of music within it, and quite a lot of variety with different ensembles. I also brought in Omar Puente to play some violin on some of the pieces as well. Wow. So there's lots of different lineups within it.
And that's all on that one album, Nightlights.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
Fantastic. Well, we're going to play one track here, and this is just the quintet with you and Alan Barnes on the saxophone, and this is a Jerry Mulligan tune called Westwood Walk, and the album is from 2009, Nightlights. And we've got some pictures too that Steve has kindly provided. So here we go. Wonderful, yes, and that was my guest, Steve Waterman on the trumpet, and the wonderful Alan Barnes on the alto there, and great rhythm section, Gareth Williams, Alec Dankworth, and Clark Tracy. And we had a nice comment in there from Dave Warren. Hi, Dave. He said, a great show. Steve is one of the main reasons I took up the trumpet as my lockdown project.
Well, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Or maybe you can get some online lessons there, Dave, you know. I hope that works out. So I was going to ask you next about composing, because I know you do a lot of writing, and you've done a lot of large scale things as well, because there's writing and then there's arranging, which is another whole skill and a craft in itself as well for larger ensembles. And I just wondered if is writing something that you've always done? Is it something like you feel you have to do, or is it something like it's a constant thing you feel like you're trying to constantly work on, or is it just you get these ideas and you go, all right, I've got to get that down, or is it a bit of all of those things?
It's probably a bit of all of those things, actually. Yeah, I mean, writing is something I've always been interested in, and I mean, I guess it stems back to when I was sort of trying to find out about jazz, and trying to understand about chords and harmony, which I really didn't have any teachers to go to ask all these questions. So a lot of it I was just trying to find out for myself, and we had a piano in the house, and sort of just going to the piano and trying to work things out. And in doing so, I guess with improvising as well, I started to sort of put melodies together against chords, and just been sort of fascinated by composition. So it's something that I've always done. I got interested in arranging, particularly through listening to the big bands, and it's really intriguing to me how you have all like 5 saxes, 8 brass in a rhythm section, and how you can put all that together. So I was sort of really intrigued. And I remember as a kid, I was trying to do these arrangements, and I used to have 2 reel-to-reel recorders, and I'd play one part, and then I'll play the other part and play another part onto the next recorder, and then keep sort of going backwards and forwards, trying to build up arrangements like that. I was just trying to work out the harmonies and things like that.
That's dedication, yeah. It's a lot easier nowadays. Are you a big fan of what do you use? Sibelius, is it, or
I use Sibelius?
Yeah.
No, it's great. I mean, it just makes things so much easier.
Yeah.
My handwriting is awful as well. So.
But presumably you're still at the piano as well when you're doing a lot of this, or do you do it on? I mean, you don't do it on the trumpet, do you? Or do you? I don't know.
A bit of both, actually.
Oh.
Because I can sort of play a few chords and things on the piano and sort of put together a melody, but I haven't got any fluency on the piano. So if I want to sort of write a line or something, I'd probably play it on the trumpet, and then use that. I mean, I really like the idea of sort of improvisation within composition. I was doing I teach composition and arranging at the Welsh College of Music, and we were doing a class yesterday just about that. How sometimes if I want to write something, I might just improvise into a recorder and then sort of transcribe some of the bits that come up from that and use that in composition as well.
As a genesis for some material.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's a very close thing, isn't it? I've always said that. I think. Well, I read it, and I often quote it, is like that composition is just the same as improvising. It's just you've got the benefit of hindsight, and the time to edit your ideas, right? So, and the other thing is that you should, because then that's you've got the chance to put the polish on it, haven't you, or edit?
Absolutely, yes, yeah. So I think it's all gone hand in hand with learning to improvise as well. I think I see it all as the same things, sort of composition, improvising, and arranging as well. It just helps to sort of really understand harmony. Yeah. I mean, I've learned a lot about harmony through arranging and sort of particularly on the big band side as well.
Yeah, that's another whole art form, isn't it? And there's another whole language of harmony for big band arranging and approach chords and things like this, like another whole level of harmony, isn't there? And that accompanies the fundamental harmony of the piece. Yeah. It's
a lifetime's work in study.
Several lifetimes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. But I do think that's interesting, particularly about jazz. I think in jazz, that's essence of that it goes alongside, as you say, the study of the improvising and the composing and the whole thing is all kind of part of the package. I think perhaps I don't know. I'm going to get hate mail now, but in the more stricter classical world, the composer and the performer are probably okay. How do I word this? Are usually more often than not like two different jobs. Whereas I think
Yeah.
perhaps more in the jazz world, it's like the one thing is all they're a little bit more wrapped together, So
Yeah, and
that's
I
not
guess,
saying one is right or wrong. I don't,
no,
yeah,
quite,
so
no.
I get any shirty emails, but it's just a different process, isn't it? And the idea that that's two different things, whereas it could be it's all more part of the same thing. I think with jazz, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing with jazz composition as well. I mean, there's the composition side of it, but also taking into account that you're writing for jazz musicians who want to improvise
Right.
on what you're writing. So that's another thing to take into account, that it's got to be something that people will want to improvise on.
And you've got to leave them the space to do that.
Yes, and I particularly like with big bands, almost treating a big band like a small band. So soloists get a lot of chance to improvise. I mean, in Glenn Miller's day, you're probably looking at 8-bar, 16-bar solos.
Yeah.
But I try and give soloists, 2 or 3 choruses to really stretch out, almost treating it like a small band, but with a big band instrumentation.
That's interesting because I had Scott Stroman on last week, and we were talking along similar lines, and he was like, well, it just depends a bit on. Also, it depends on the context to a certain extent. And one of the things I asked him, which I mean, I'm going to ask you now as well, is when you compose, do you tend to think more of a piece, or do you often write for particular players, or is that not something that you do so much? Because I know Scott said that he tends to get an idea for a piece based around a project, based around the musicians that will be on it, and so like in that scenario, he'll be writing. He'll think of like Stan Saltzman and Kenny Wheeler or something, and that'll be what he's writing for. But I guess it's just different, isn't it? Different scenarios. Whereas sometimes you're not sure who's going to play it, are you? So maybe you're thinking more in terms of the piece as a separate thing on its own. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes with the big band pieces that I do, I mean, a lot of it was to give myself something to take when I go and guest with a big band.
Right. Yeah.
So I've also got to take into account that it might be a professional band or it might be a student band.
Right. So kind of then you still have
Yeah.
to bear that in mind of who's going to be playing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, so you're like the featured soloist, and then you've got all the charts for the whole big band. Yeah, right. I see. Yeah.
But there have been other times for specific project that I might have to write something when I know the musicians in mind, and I am writing things with that, knowing who's going to play it and having ideas of that.
I've just remembered it was we were on holiday and we saw you at the festival at Christchurch, wasn't it?
That's right. Yes.
Do you remember? And you had the big band there, so that would have been that sort of scenario where those were your charts, right, with the big band. Was that your charts?
Yeah. So,
I was probably quite drunk by that point, so
yeah. So
it's a little fuzzy, some of it.
Yeah. So I normally send all the parts in advance so they can rehearse it and then just turn up and do the gig with them.
Yeah, right. I see now. Yeah. So it's still kind of you've got a scenario in mind of when you're writing. So well, look, let's listen to some. So we've got this album now, which is from October Arrival. Is the album 2003, yes. And this is the Steve Waterman Jazz Orchestra. So this is your band. You put together for this recording. Is that right? I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, it was mainly musicians from Wales. So I was doing quite a lot of things in around sort of Cardiff and Swansea, and we put a band together for a couple of years to play some of these tunes, and this is a recording that came out from that. Yeah.
And it was all your compositions, but also your arrangements for the. And it's quite. Is it a regular big band or is it a different ensemble? What's the orchestration?
It's a regular big band. Yeah, four trumpets, four trombones, five saxes, four rhythm.
Right.
A couple of the arrangements are done by John Warren,
Right.
and I think the one we're going to hear, "Passing Glance," was an arrangement that John did.
Ah, right.
And when I started getting into big band writing, particularly for the music I was writing, I had no idea where to start. And I'd known John Warren through the John Sermon Brass Project, but also through his own big band. And I just loved the way he writes, and I could just imagine the way he writes for the pieces that I'd written. So I commissioned him to do a couple of arrangements.
So you wrote the compositions, and then he scored it he orchestrated it for the big band.
Yeah.
Right.
And the one Passing Glance, I mean, I'd sent him the lead sheet and what I wanted, and I didn't hear anything from John for ages, and then eventually got an email, and he said, "Oh, sorry, it's taken so long. It's turned out to be a bit of a symphony." And it's just an amazing arrangement, and it's great. It's about 11, 12 minutes long, and it's just
well,
beautiful.
unfortunately, we're going to hear about 7 minutes of it, because we're going to play it up to the trumpet. I couldn't cut your trumpet solo out. I just thought that wouldn't really be on. So we've got the main theme, we've got all the orchestration stuff, and then we've got the trumpet solo, and then they'll have to get the album to hear the rest of it. So let's play a bit of that now. This is A Passing Glance. It's one of Steve's compositions, and scored by John Warren for the Steve Waterman Jazz Orchestra. enjoying the show, I just want to take a moment to tell you about a new way that you can help support me do this, and that is through patreon.com. That's right, I've got an account now, so the link's below here, patreon.com Buster Birch, and if you go along to there, you can now make donations by Visa credit card, so you don't have to use PayPal if you don't want to do that. And the advantage of Patreon is that once you do it once, it will automatically deduct on a per show basis. So instead of having to fill in the forms every week, if you want to make a regular donation, then that will just automatically deduct straight to your credit card each per show. And that is hugely helpful to me because it means I know that I've got a certain amount coming in every time I do a show, and that really helps me plan ahead and keeps the viable sustainability of the show going. There's 2 levels of sponsorship. There's my silver and gold membership. All of my Patreon supporters will get a big thank you personally from me live on the show, and the gold member sponsors will get an additional Spotify playlist which will be sent to you each week. It's something that I'm putting together. It's personally curated by me and will feature lots more albums by the guest artists each week. So it's a great opportunity to get to know this music much better. If you're really enjoying the show and you like the little tasters that you're hearing, that's a great way to get to know this music even more and enjoy in full comfort the full sound of the full albums. Thanks very much. Back to the show. That's right, and I'm here. We're live on YouTube. My guest tonight is the wonderful Steve Waterman, and fantastic, beautiful writing there, and wonderful playing from that big band. So I thought we'd talk a little bit now about your affair with Cuban music,
Right.
and because that's we have quite a close connection with that, and we're going to play a track from the band we play in, Head South, and but I know you had this fantastic tour you did to Cuba, and you also worked with the great wonderful Robin Jones, King Salsa. That was a band you played with quite a few years, was it? You did with them?
Yeah, I think I first started playing with King Salsa back 1985. It wasn't long after I'd come out of college.
Yeah.
And I sort of got involved with some Latin music, so a band called Cayenne,
Right.
which was like a 9-piece sort of Latin influence band, probably a bit more fusiony. But we played at Ronnie Scott's quite regularly. We used to.
I think I saw you there.
Yeah, we used to play opposite Arturo Sandoval every
That's
year,
it.
and
Yeah.
also Nina Simone as well.
How was that playing opposite Arturo Sandoval every night?
Oh, scary. Yeah, very scary. But it was great to see him up that close. What he could do, amazing. But I think Robin heard me through playing with Cayenne, and he asked me to come and do a dep in King Salsa. And I think I was completely out of my depth. I hadn't got a clue where the first beat of the bar was. But I think Robin sort of recognised something in me, and he said, "Oh, come over to my house one day." And basically, he gave me a percussion lesson, and he was playing all these rhythms on the congas. And he said, "If you play that rhythm, just play it on the trumpet." So I started playing it on the trumpet. And he said, "If you improvise with that rhythm, that will slot in with what I'm doing on the congas." So it was a real sort of pivotal moment.
Rhythm first, yeah.
Yeah, and it sort of really changed the sort of my view about improvising, and it became a lot more rhythmic, and I really got fascinated by the rhythms in Cuban music, how it all sort of fits in. What the bass is doing, what the piano is doing, what the drums are doing, what the percussion. It's almost like a big jigsaw, and then you've got all the horns on top of that as well. And so I started writing arrangements for Robin's King Salsa. I got involved with George Haslam, baritone saxophone player, who runs the Slam record label. Again through Robin, and we sort of ended up doing a few things together. I think the first time we went to Havana, George was great friends with Bobby Carcassez, a Cuban singer, sort of painter, writer, dancer. He sings, plays piano, plays flugelhorn. He's an amazing guy. And I think he was quite pivotal in the Havana Jazz Festival. So he invited us out there, and we ended up doing a trio with trumpet, baritone, sax, and congas for the first time. And then George commissioned me to write a conga concerto for Robin for an album called Meltdown. And I remember Robin coming down, went over to my house, and sort of we did it in 3 movements. And he said he wanted a bembe for the first movement, a bolero for the second movement, and I think what ended up as a sort of timbre for the final movement. That sort of changed a little bit over the development of it. And I remember I sort of took a few notes about things that Robin wanted to do, scribbled it on a bit of paper, and then didn't have time to do anything for a few months. And it actually got to about 2 weeks before the performance, and I still hadn't written anything. I looked at all this paper, and I couldn't make head nor tail of it. And things just gradually started to come together, and I sort of ended up writing this concerto, which we went to Havana to perform. Sadly, Robin was ill at the time, so he couldn't come. We had a conga player who I think was actually a relative of distant relative of Chano Pozo, who was the conga player with Dizzy Gillespie.
Wonderful, yeah.
And it had this amazing big band, and it seemed to get bigger every rehearsal. And I think the percussion section ended up being about 9 percussionists.
Oh, brilliant! They're all on the phone to their mate. It's like, come down, let's play.
Yes, yeah. So we ended up with this huge big band, and it was members of Irakiri, Afro-Cuban All-Stars, Buena Vista Social Club, and all these musicians put together.
All the top guys.
For this big band. It's just a wonderful
And
experience.
Chicho Valdez on the piano.
I don't think he was actually on the piano, but I think Chicho was sort of very much responsible for the whole festival.
Putting it together, right?
Yeah, sort of like artistic director for the festival.
And you played your piece, and so you played in the band with the rest of the guys as well then? Yes,
yeah. Well, I was standing out front conducting it, and then played a bit of a solo at the end of something. Yeah, so
lovely. That must have been a wonderful moment.
It was just amazing, just standing in front of this band. It was just absolutely incredible.
Brilliant.
So yeah, real highlight of my career, I think.
Oh, and of course we recorded one of the movements, didn't we, on one of the albums we did with Head South? Was it Nowhere to Go? Was on the second album? Is that right?
That's right. Was it the second album? It might have been. Was it the
I think
first?
it's on the second album.
Okay.
Oh no, it's on the first album. You're right. It's on the first album.
First album. Yeah.
Record Flight, and featuring Chino Martel Morgan.
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
We've had a lot of fun working together. So for those that don't know, we played together in this quintet, Head South, run by John Harriman, and it features Steve on trumpet and a great conga player from Cuba, Chino Martel Morgan. And we've had a few bass players. Ed Harrison was one of our early bass players, and Tim, and then and now we've got Alfredo Pulido, myself on the drums, and done 2 albums. And this, but I wanted to play. I couldn't not play one of our tracks. John would fire me if I didn't take the opportunity to play a track. But I thought I'd play this other one, which is and you do bring some tunes along, don't you, for the band, and they're great.
Yes,
great fun to play your tunes. And
thank you.
They're wonderful. Yeah, it's really, and you make it very easy. The way you've written them, they just fall out. You know, they're just there. Everything's there. It's very easy to. Everything works so well on your pieces. I've always found that. So this is a piece called Songo for Mia.
Yes. Yeah.
And this is from our second album, which is On the Way. And this is recorded in. Go on.
So yeah, Mia is my stepdaughter. So it's for
Mia
for
is your. Right. I was wondering who Mia is. And this features Chino on the congas, and which is from 2000. I've got it written down. 2014.
Right. Okay.
Wonderful. Okay, let's hear a little bit of that. And the song go for Mia. This is one of Steve's tunes. Yes, that was Songo for Me, composed by my guest Steve Waterman, featuring Steve on the trumpet, and the band is Heads South, headssouth.com if you want to hear more of that. And that's a group we've been in together for a while now, more than 10 years, isn't it?
It
Had a
is,
lot of
yeah.
fun, a lot of
It's been
gigs.
great fun, yeah. Yeah.
We were talking about something when we went to Spain earlier on today, weren't we? And we had
That's right.
bit too much fun in a Cuban bar after playing we got booked to play opening night for a new theatre they built, didn't they? They built a brand
That's
new.
right.
We played the opening night, and then they took us out for dinner. And they
Some,
operate.
some, something to do with the bank, wasn't it? Was it a theatre?
Yeah, there's apparently they have a policy in Spain where all the banks or some like the institutions have to give a certain amount of percentage to the arts. This is like a policy, and so you go in the front of the bank. And I think it was a Santander. I might be wrong, but it's like a Santander bank, and then you go through the back, and it opens out to this like I don't know, what was it, about 200-300 seats, something
Yeah,
like
it was
that.
a beautiful theatre, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like a sort of recital hall, wasn't it? Sort of big with a big stage and brand new. Still smell the paint, couldn't we?
Yeah.
And we did the opening night. And then we went out and then we ended up in some Cuban bar somewhere, and it all got very messy, didn't it? And you had a recording session. That's right, because the next track we're going to play, is it this one you recorded the next day?
It is, yeah. So,
Yeah.
So the next day when we come back from Spain, I had to do the recording. So I was quite abstemious during that Cuban bar.
Yeah. Oh, I think you did the right thing. I should have come back to the hotel when you did. So one of the I thought I'd just play this track because you've done a few of these albums like dedicated to great artists, and of course one of the great early trumpet players was Buddy Bolden. And was he somebody that you were was that an early influence or somebody discovered later, or you just felt like you wanted to play his music, you like that style, or was it you wanted to sort of, nod your hat to him, as it were? And
Yeah, well, it was through David Hayes again, who's been producing some of the albums that I've been doing, and he came up to me and said, "Oh, I've got a great title for an album. We call it Buddy Bolden Blew It."
very good. It is a good title.
And Buddy Bolden was really the first jazz musician. There's no recordings of him that exists, or any music that he'd written, or
A lot of great stories about him.
Yeah, and I think Louis Armstrong as a kid used to go and sort of sneak in and listen to Buddy Bolden, so he was a huge influence on that. So Buddy Bolden was really the first jazz musician. And the idea really was to record tunes all written by trumpet players over the history of jazz. It's really just an excuse to record all my favourite tunes written by trumpet players. But with this title, we felt that we should have something to represent Buddy Bolden. And I thought I'd write a piece to dedicate to Buddy Bolden. And I imagine one of the things that he used to do in New Orleans was play on a funeral march. So I thought I'd come up with a funeral march. So I have the sort of slow, mournful start as they're marching towards the cemetery, and then a sort of bit livelier on the way back. So that was the sort of basis of the piece, and just a sort of minor blues really, and sort of coming up with the piece. I think the version we're going to hear is the quintet version of it, but since doing that, I think I've done a big band version of it, a brass band version of it, a brass group version of it as well. So
wonderful. So with all your arranging skills, you can and when you do that, when you do like a new version or something, how do you I mean, what was the, I suppose you've got an opportunity to play it for an ensemble, but how do you treat the material? Does it come out quite different, or do you, I don't know, there's quite a craft, isn't there, involved with writing things for different ensembles? You find it affects the piece a lot as a piece, or does it become like a new piece, or is it just like a version of that same piece?
Well, certainly with the big band piece, it almost became a new piece.
Yeah.
There's so many sort of other things that I could put in, and a sort of like a sort of trad thing at the end.
Right.
And with people, had about 4 instruments improvising, but then back in lines with some of the other horns as well. So it gave me a chance to compose some new lines to it as well. And,
it takes on a life of itself then, in the new kind of incarnation of itself, I suppose.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. I think over the recent years, I've probably played it more as a big band piece than I have as a small band piece. But yeah, I mean, it's something I do on gigs as well. It's sort of quite an unusual thing to have a sort of New Orleans funeral march as part of a jazz gig. So
and to have an original piece as well.
Yeah.
That's in this style, because there is some sort of standard repertoire that people tend to play, isn't there, in this style? But
yes,
they tend not to do original pieces in that style, which I think is very interesting, and it gives it a new take.
I think how I came up with the theme, I just wrote the words Buddy Bolden and just assigned notes to each of the letters of his name, and that's where I got the melody. Came from that. So
wow, very contemporary.
That's how it all started.
Yeah, well, great idea. Yeah. So that just gives you a germ of a motif, and then you take it from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Wow, brilliant. Well, look, unfortunately, time has whizzed past again, as it tends to do. So I think what we'll do, we'll play out on this. I mean, it's been great, Steve. I've really enjoyed having this time to sit and chat and talk about yourself. And there's so much that you've done. Obviously, we could only show a little snapshot of it. So, folks, if you want to check out some more, all the gold member Patreon supporters will be getting a Spotify playlist with featuring some albums with Steve on them. So, it's been great. We've got a couple more comments in the chat. A big hello to Andy and Annette, who have joined us. Nice to see you guys. And Peter, thank you for your donation. He's made a donation on PayPal. Much appreciated. So, thanks everyone for tuning in. It's great to see that people are enjoying these shows, and we do really appreciate all your donations and your support. Next week is great guitarist Dominic Ashworth from Toronto, but very much a big part of the British jazz scene for many years here. Great teacher, great musician, great all-rounder. So lots of lovely music from him. And it just leaves me to say thanks to Steve for sharing his music and his time with us this evening.
Well, thank you, Buster. It's been absolutely wonderful, and thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, my pleasure. And we're going to play out now with this track. This is one of Steve's compositions, Red Vest Man. So where's that come from?
Well, Buddy Bolden always was supposed to wear a red vest whenever he played a gig, right. So that's where the Red Vest Man came from.
Not the same red vest, hopefully, but
well,
who knows? And so we should just mention the musicians on this recording are Anthony Kerr.
Yeah, Anthony Kerr on vibes. We've got Chris Allard on guitar.
Wonderful, yeah, great.
Alec Dankworth on bass and Dave Barry on drums.
Lovely, great, wonderful. He's a great player, isn't he, Dave? And he really gets this feel just right on this New Orleans second line feel here. And of course, my great guest Steve Waterman on the trumpet. Thanks, mate. Appreciate it. Thanks, everyone. Take care of yourselves, and we'll be back next week. Have a great week. Cheerio. And I'll leave you with this Red Vest Man.
Thank